Hey guys, top of the night to you. Um, it's night time here in the UK anyway, but anyway, I was going to say top of the morning, top of the evening to you, but it is night anyway. Uh, yeah, just wanted to check I was live on both Facebook and YouTube. Anyway, welcome to part two of my dreams ahead for Napoli, my ideal dreams for Napoli, or whatever you want to call it. I hope you saw part one and enjoyed it, and I hope you'll look out for parts three and four. If not, please look out for part one, and I hope you will look out for parts three and four eventually. But yeah, brain's not working at the moment. I'm just trying to get my brain to wake up. But yeah, this is part two. As per usual, these are pointers number 11 to 20. So yeah, please let me know what you think as ever. Hope you'll share this video with any Napoli fans you know, or any fans of Italian football generally, or even Celtic fans, or even football fans generally, soccer fans generally, getting involved in the discussion. Speaking of football or soccer fans generally, sports generally, Wilfred, I'm going to call his surname Nancy because I don't like the pronunciation in English. This means something a bit more cruder in England, at least. But yeah, he's coming to Celtic, hopefully, if the deal doesn't fall through. I'd love for him to start on the 1st of December because it's like a new month. Although I know the current manager who was with us before is doing very well. But I wonder if he could represent the MLS, and I wonder if MLS supporters will want to see him do well for Celtic, because I'm sure some of them were the ones that I think he's at Colombia at the moment. If he comes to us, maybe the people from Colombia might start supporting Celtic or whatever as a second team. I don't know. I suppose we did get their manager, so depends how you look at it. But I wonder if MLS supporters will want to see him do well, because like he'll represent like a manager who came from the MLS, although he's French. And I wonder if we'll get more supporters from America and France as well, given he is French and he has a connection with America with the MLS. I think we did that with Ange Postecoglou when he came from Australia. We got lots of Australian supporters. It would have been cool if we got more from Greece as well, because his ancestry is from Greece or whatever. But anyhow, see how it goes, and hopefully the deal doesn't fall through. But I'd love for him to start on the 1st, because that's a new month, or maybe that could be the 1st of January, because then he starts on a new month and a new year. But if he's got the last month of the year, it'll be pretty cool. I guess the earlier he starts, the earlier he can embed his philosophy into it or whatever. But maybe that's a topic for another time. Maybe I'll cover that next week. Although obviously next week it'll be too late for him to start on a new month unless he's going to start in January. But yeah, there's a part of me that wants to see Martin O'Neill lift a trophy, and so it would feel a bit harsh for him to leave as we're in the final. Some fans, many supporters seem to want to see him stay in until like the final. I don't know when that is, but of the Scottish Cup or whatever. Oh, no, I think it's the Premier Sports Cup or whatever. Hopefully we won't blow it this time like we did against Aberdeen. But on that note, I hope Celtic get a treble. Anyway, on to the topic at hand. These, as I say, are pointers number 11 to 20. Please let me know what you think as ever. And here goes. So number 11, I'd love to know what Napoli could do to improve, what they can change, and how they can improve. Basically, what sort of things could they improve upon? I'd love for Napoli fans and fans of Italian football generally, or even soccer supporters generally, to sort of say, this is what Napoli could improve upon. This is how they could attract more investment. Or this is how some of the tactics they could use. This is how they can utilise players better. Or this is a system they can implement. I often think of like Real Madrid as a benchmark, although I suppose they have much more bigger finances. But I'd love to see as much investment into Italian teams like Napoli, as well as like Celtic as well. I'd love to see investment into them, as I talked about in part one. I've talked about in the past. And one other thing, I suppose I could have said it's in point number 4 actually, but I didn't think of it at the time. I can think of things too late. I'm just like, so I need extra time, I sometimes say, but I mostly say. But one of the things they could do is a lot of walking, I guess. I love to do walking, but that's something that can keep people fit. But they can try different exercises and see what works, try different experiments, allow people to have the freedom to fail so they can learn to become more successful. As this Indian guy, it might be an Indian American guy, or from India, but he lived in America or Canada or somewhere, and he said the freedom, his saying is, the freedom to fail gives me a chance to succeed, and the more mistakes you make, the more you learn from them or whatever. But I'd love for it to know from Napoli fans out there, especially, and even fans of Serie A generally who maybe watch them, to say what Napoli could do to improve, or even, as I say, soccer supporters generally, but especially, as I say, Napoli and Serie A supporters. I would love to discourage investment into the weapons trade and the military-industrial complex wars and things like that, and to promote peace through football. And sport, I may well mention a few times, I know I've mentioned it in the past, but I'd love for that to be for Italian football. I mean, I would love for peace through football, but and again, to discourage investments in wars, weapons trade, and things like that, and instead to encourage investment into footy, soccer, calcio football, or whatever you're going to call it. But as a supporter of Italian football and Celtic, I would love to go there. So if there was a consumer group that said we would rather see it invested into football, and since I'm the one who came up with the idea, as far as I'm aware, I don't know if anyone else has come up with the idea, hopefully it would go to Italian football and Celtic directly. And I'd love for Italian teams and Celtic to talk to FIFA and UEFA and say, what can we do? What is the most amount of money we can get legally through your rules and international rules and whatever? And could politicians, councillors, the government itself, and whatever in our respective countries or whatever, or even around the world, support us, and like what legal rights could we have to get more investment without breaking any rules, like FFP rules or whatever, financial fair play rules or whatever. I'm certainly not an expert in those rules, but hopefully FIFA and UEFA will want to support Italian teams and Celtic within the rules, because they'll say, as a reward for doing this, because they'll say you're promoting the image of the beautiful game. I also hope to show what neurodivergent people, and even those with mental health problems, like myself, who's both neurodivergent and with mental health problems. I think my sister was saying neurodivergent means like everyone is neurodiverse because everyone has a different type of mind. But what I mean, I use the term neurodiverse and neurodivergent interchangeably, but I'm probably using them erroneously or wrongly or whatever. I'm using one of them. But yeah, I'd love to see what we neurodiverse or neurodivergent people can do for Tanford and Celtic, and also even people with mental health problems. And hopefully we can work with FIFA and UEFA as well. But I do want to do it legally, but I'd love to say, like, in return for supporting people with mental health problems and neurodivergent people, as well as improving the image of the beautiful game generally, I'd love to see Italian teams and Celtic get as much investment and sponsorship as possible, and FIFA and UEFA support that sort of stuff. But there's more I want to say on that in part 3 and possibly part 4 as well. So please listen out for that. And generally, I really appreciate that. But moving on, I'd love for you to listen to my videos anyway, if you'd be so kind. But anyway, moving on, number 12. I dreamed that, I was going to say, actually, I forgot to say, I wanted to move on because I realised the video was going on long, but about what would you change about yourself, life itself, me, the world, or whatever it might be. I'd love to know. And again, I love for Napoli fans to talk about what they would change about their club, for the supporters to talk about that, and how the supporters connect with the club and vice versa. So the owners, like, how can they listen to supporters talk about 5-10 year plans and things like that, and reassure the supporters about what they're going to do in the next 5-10 years and that kind of thing. But moving on, I'd say number 12, I'd love for them to have continued and ongoing success. I was never into going into the gym. When I got ill, I started going to the gym. But I suppose nowadays, with so many rules, I don't know how tough you have to be, really, because the referees give a lot of protection, whereas in the old days they used to be real hard men, as they say. But nowadays, excuse the expression, but honestly, sorry, crude humour there. But honestly, there used to be tough guys that could tackle a lot more rigorously. Whereas now there's so many rules and all that kind of thing, but people still say you have to be quite tough. But trying to find different training exercises and how much they need to put into upper body and lower body strength and that kind of thing. But I'd love to see how they could have continued improvement. And again, look at like Real Madrid, Barcelona, and other teams as a benchmark. I often think, like, looking at teams like Man United and how they fell from grace, in other words, how they were like near the top and then they've gone down a bit and regressed. And even like Barcelona, I know even at times Real Madrid, like what are mistakes to avoid basically from different clubs and all the different sources they can learn to continue to improve as much as possible. God willing and Godspeed, as they say. Moving on, number 13, I support Italian teams from a biased point of view, but I'd love to find out some of the weaknesses and challenges Napoli have and how they can improve. Number 14, again, how can they improve? What are the solutions to their struggles and their challenges, and how can they get back to the top? What if they could find ways to find solutions, and also as they work with FIFA and UEFA to improve the image of the beautiful game and things like that. Number 15, what should Napoli focus on? And I'd love to know again what the supporters of Napoli want to see them achieve. And I'd love to know from Serie A supporters generally. Like, I know when they play in the league and the Coppa Italia and the Super Cup and whatnot. We could talk about Super Cup Sunday as well. But yeah, when they play in the league, of course they're rivals. But I'd love to see Italian teams support each other when they play non-Italian teams, even like rival Italian teams. So, like, wanting to see, I think in Napoli's case, their biggest rivals are probably either another team from the south locally or probably even Juventus, which many Italian teams don't seem to like. But I suppose they're a bit like the Man United or the Liverpool, especially Man United back in the day of England, but or Real Madrid or Barcelona or Spain or whatever. But yeah, when they play non-Italian teams, I'd love to see them support each other, and even Latin teams, actually called Mediterranean teams, I'd love to see support each other when they play teams outside of the Mediterranean, like English or German teams or whatever. I'd love to see French football do a little bit better at club team level, but maybe that's a partnership with Italy and France don't normally get on well, but they do have a lot in common. Like, they're both Mediterranean republics with a tricolor, as I call it, Mr. T. So I wonder if they could have some sort of deals and partnerships where they learn from each other and train together. Like, France helps the Italian national team to improve, and at the same time Serie A helps the League Earn or whatever it's called to improve, because French teams normally underachieve in Europe and that kind of thing. But really, I'd love to see Italian teams win more. But if an Italian team can't win a trophy, like say PSG play against Barcelona, I'd rather see PSG win, because it's one, French teams are much behind Italian teams, whereas Spanish teams are quite ahead of us. So we're somewhere in the middle. And secondly, it's like because they're a Mediterranean republic with a tricolor, so they have a bit more in common. I guess Spain and Italy have a lot in common as well, so it's a bit of a dilemma, because I normally like to see Mediterranean teams do well, but Spanish teams, if they keep winning trophies, will get even further ahead. So I'd love to see Italian teams get to the top and win the most trophies at club and country level. But so that's a bit of a dilemma. That's why I'd love to see Mediterranean teams and Latin teams generally, or Latin teams and Mediterranean teams generally, I probably should put it that would do well. But because of the competition, it's a bit of a difficult one. As I say, it's a bit of a dilemma, because if Spanish teams win even more, they'll go even further ahead, unfortunately, which will be even harder for Italy the Italian teams, Serie A teams to catch up, if we ever can, which I hope we can one day. But if the world lasts long enough, I just love the world to last long enough for Italy to win the most World Cups and Italian club teams to win the most European and international trophies out of all the European teams. But moving on to 16, I'd love to know again, like, people's thoughts on how to do that. I normally think of like 16 as like committees, think tanks, brainstorms, networks. Let's say cooperative networks or think tanks mainly, or whatever you want to call them, which would discuss basically in this case how to help Napoli to become as successful as possible, including winning like European and international trophies, how to get more investment, how to improve the academies, which I hope will benefit the national team. And I'll talk more about that in part 3 and 4, all being well. And yeah, basically what could benefit Napoli and how they can be as successful as possible. And how to bring, as I said in part 1, to bring the best possible players, coaches, managers, directors of football, dietitians, and staff generally. Whatever helps a great team. So maybe even like I say, like learning from Real Madrid, like who who is involved in Real Madrid and what roles do they have and what some of the tactics that could be borrowed or whatever, if you like, incorporating the best practices and that kind of thing. Number 17, I'd love to see as Napoli get back to the top, and I hope say neurodivergent, creative, out of the box thinking and imaginative thinking and that kind of thing can help. Number 18, maybe they could use like the fact that they had Maradona in the past, especially, and some of the great players they've had, especially Maradona, who's I can think of off the top of my head. I think there's Kvaratskhelia and a Nigerian player that they had, Victor Osimhen, I think it is. I think it's Victor Osimhen, I'm sure it is. But players like that, but obviously they have the Scudetto winning season. But I think they need more investment to have continued success or future success to achieve things like that more often. And maybe the supporters could invest in the club, that kind of thing. And again, I'd love for Italian teams and Celtic to practice and train together and to work with, as say, UEFA, FIFA, and others to sort of say, how do we working with FIFA and UEFA to say how to improve the image of the beautiful game and in return get more access to funding and things like that, which is something, again, I want to talk more in details in part 3 and hope maybe part 4 as well. Number 19, I'd love for them to fundraise for STEM support for Africa, supporting Africa in STEM, or even supporting the black diaspora in STEM and that kind of thing, and improving relations through football. Number 20, in part 1, point number 10, I guess I could have said about, I suppose I did mention about the academies, and again, there's something more I want to say on that in part 3 and 4, and I'd love to see what could be done, hopefully, to help Napoli to win as many trophies as possible. It's kind of hard to see at the moment, but hopefully with loads of investment, they'll be able to do that. And again, hope to talk more about that in parts 3 and 4, all being well, God willing, and Godspeed, and hopefully I'll be able to avoid distractions, and I'm out, and peace and love.